Hello and welcome to Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys. And it's freedomthroughastrology.com. I'm your astrologer. My name is Donald Patak. There's my contact information, standard YouTube copyright. And welcome to your week. And I do read astrology differently, so I start my videos by explaining how I do read a little differently. First of all, like the ancient astrologers, I read astrology as constellation-based astrology. Some call it true sidereal astrology. It's astrology by the visible sky. Ancient astrologers were also astronomers. So when I tell you, for example, that Venus and Jupiter are both in Gemini, an astronomer is going to agree with me. Tropical astrologers fix the signs to seasons the way the sky looked way back, God only knows when. Um, the skies change. It's called precession of the equinox. It's where we get our astrological age, the age of Pisces. So I tell you we're in the age of Pisces, and I'm reading your chart in the age of Pisces. And as I'm reading by the visible sky, there are 13 signs because between Scorpio and Sagittarius, there is a missing sign. It's called a fucus. It's the symbol of the wounded healer. If you do look on the charts, you'll see its foot is very nicely in there. It's a symbol of a person holding a snake by the head and the tail. Now, snake in ancient times symbolized knowledge. So when you hold a snake by the head and tail, you're controlling knowledge or you're using knowledge. Ophiuchus used knowledge to heal. Ideally, he was supposed to use knowledge to heal himself and then heal others with similar wounds. That's the ideal. I use the natural size of the constellations because Mother Nature, in her wisdom, made them all sorts of different sizes. Some astrologers like to make them all the same. They ain't. Virgo, in all her glory, is just under 50 degrees. Aries, Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Fucus, individually, each they're less than 25 degrees. The collective of them is less than 120 degrees totally. So I use the natural size of the signs. It's the way they are in the sky. And I use astrological midpoints as opposed to the IAU boundaries for the simple reason that the IAU boundaries are arbitrarily drawn. Athan Shimenti does mention this in his astrology training videos. And he talks about how he was zooming in on astronomy charts at the border between Scorpio and Fucus, and he noticed stars from Scorpio were actually on the side of the Fucus border. Really, the Scorpio Fucus border should have been moved over. So he looked at the zodiac belt. Where's the last bright star of Scorpio? First bright star of Fucus. What's the halfway point? Done. And he did that with all the constellations. That's part one. Part two. I interpret using what's called evolutionary astrology. That means the planets, the signs, even the houses are having lessons for you. So these are the lessons to learn. And a key here is you have freedom of choice. There's an ideal, which I will paint, but there's also what I call the shadow. So there's the high road and the low road. Choose to learn the lesson, choose to avoid the lesson. Another way of looking at it. This is the weekly edition. So these are universal lessons for everyone transiting to transiting. I do not do transiting to natal in these because it would take forever. So do have some compassion on your fellow Earth travelers. Dates are based on the Eastern U.S. time zone, as I do live outside of Buffalo, New York. I'm operating within 1 degree of exact. Okay. And the software is Capricorn by Prometheus. Okay, that's just Ghost crime. Ghost, everything okay? Yeah, he just wanted his turn at the water. Okay, we're good. So let's take a look. These are our weekly transits. This is the week of August 11th through August 17th, 2025. And the sun is nicely in Leo. You'll hear people talking about the Lion's Gate. What that is when the sun is conjunct a specific star in Leo. For tropical astrologers, it's right now. In the visible sky, that actually is going to happen in early September, and it's a point of discussion on the radical astrology groups. So I think it's somewhere around September 9th is the actual Lionsgate. But the sun is in Leo, learning to express yourself. The moon is in Aquarius, moving through to Taurus. And the sign change for Aquarius actually occurs on Monday. Um, so it's not as busy as it sounds, and Pisces is a very long transit. And we just get a quick a day or so of Aries. So the moon is actually much more stable than it sounds. And we do have the last quarter moon in Taurus on August 16th, just after midnight here in Eastern time. And our active planets, badly English here, active planets for the week. I think I have that on my notes, fix the pluralization. Let it go. Very few new transits this week, but we have Venus and Mercury on the inner planets. And in the outer planets, busy, and we have these long transits of Saturn and Neptune, Uranus, triggering each other, and Pluto, or aspecting each other in Pluto. If it's trigger, it's the shadow. So the outer planets are saying time for us to play, and these go on for a very long time because they do move very slow. We do have another sign change this week. The north node of the moon, your destiny, is in Aquarius, and it finally moves into Aquarius after a very long transit in Pisces. So we will talk about that. Mercury is finishing up its station direct early in the week. So if you're feeling a little mentally sluggish or slow, that's why it'll go away, be gone Tuesday-ish. And our retrograde planets, all of them the outer planets, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. Retrograde just means reflection and a time of inner work. I know some people who do ascribe a negative connotation to retrograde. It's a time of inner work and a time of reflection. Rather than doing stuff out on the world stage, it's more personal. So let's look at our chart for the week. And as you can see, we'll start with the moon up here at the top. And you can see the moon does start, and it's in the afternoon, early evening that the moon does go into Pisces. And as you can see, there you go. It's really Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. And next week from Monday is when we'll go into Gemini. So it's actually a very, very emotionally, your moon is your emotions. It's actually a fairly steady week. Let me get my doodle tool. And as you can see, this dotted line, anything above this line is holdovers from previous weeks. And honestly, there's more to talk about from last week and beyond than there is from this week. So a lot of older transits, those outer planets are still doing their work. And you can see we do have the Saturn-Pluto transit sextile ending or coming to an end. Outside it's leaving the 1 degree of exact. You'll still feel the energies, but it's not going to be as heavy. Yeah, those two together can be very heavy. Like I said, Mercury retrograde will be done Tuesday morning, the latest. Beautiful. And this week, like a real power player, first and foremost, is Venus. We have 3 transits with Venus. Now, this bottom one here, I had to draw in. I run 2 models. I run one for the week and one for the upcoming month. And the week had Venus sextiling the south node, but the month pulled in trining the north node at the same time. But for some reason, the week didn't pull it in. I don't know why. I am looking to get an answer for that. But I did pen it in here because it is going to be important. So our big planet this week, Venus. Relationships, your ability to work with other people, get to know them, friendships. Some people say romance, can be, but different aspects of relationships. Let's also remember Venus is your creativity. Venus governs the arts, whether it's drawing, painting, sculptures, or music. And I think theatrics as well. But there's that. And also rest, recreation, and having fun. So Venus does cover a lot more than relationships. And let's keep that in mind. I need to include all that in my Venus transits. But as you can see, a lot of Venus with Jupiter and Venus with the nodes of the moon. We get another incredibly long transit right here. Lose one, gain one. Uranus trines Pluto. And we'll talk about that. And this is going to go on longer than the Energizer Bunny. So where these outer planets could burn out the Energizer Bunny. And we do have an unusually long transit with Venus and Mars. And the model paints two exact points where they're within a degree. I don't have a reason why that happens, but I'll still share it. But so there's not a lot of new. We're still dealing with those outer planets and those lessons. We do have transits from last week ending, but the majority of the energy for the week is those outer planets and those long-term lessons. And let me clear this out and close this out. And I will do my best. Oh, let's see, what else did I mess up? There we go. Got to pull this out of the way. And on Saturday, we do have the last quarter moon just after midnight. I will be examining the inside of my eyelids while meditating on the letter Z. Some people call it sleeping. I prefer meditation. And on Sunday, we finally have the North Node entering Aquarius. And again, North Node is your destiny and learning to be independent with it. Let's jump into those older transits. Saturn is conjunct Neptune, and to make this short, sweet, and simple, Saturn is maturity. It's a call to action, and Neptune is learning to be present. And in Pisces, ideally, it is dealing with spirituality. It's learning to be present, transcendent. That's why they assign spirituality. So I call this spiritual maturity. And it's you learning your spirituality and how you practice it and what steps you're going to take to learn it and work with it. And it's retrograde, so this is all in reflective work and internal work. The shadow here, I'm just going to call it for what it is, religious dogmatism, or trying or extreme doubt and denial. There's a reason not, to doubt spirituality. I'm never going to put anybody down. If that's part of your journey, God bless you, or whatever deity bless you. But Saturn can be very bitter, very controlling. Neptune falls for hype, superficiality. And in Pisces, again, that superficiality, this fantasy, it can be that religious dogmatism. I was asked if religious fanaticism would fall into this, and I would say fanaticism, if either Mercury or Mars were involved in a conjunction, that would definitely be a form of fanaticism. But this is just, I'm just going to call it outright strict dogmatism, fundamentalism. And the thing is, if you find yourself in that path, it's a clue to change. You're not stuck with your choices. Evolutionary astrology teaches you have freedom and choice. So if you don't like the path you're on, you can change it. And from way long ago, we do have, way back in June, we do have Neptune sextiling Pluto. So how is your spiritual journey helping you in doing your inner transformation and the work of inner transformation? And sextile is an excitement or an interest. When you're first starting out a project, and you've got all that hope and all that excitement, all that expectation. That's good that's a good explanation of the sextile energy. So how is your spirituality helping you with this inner work? And the shadow here is falling for hype, living in a fantasy. And Pluto, the shadow of Pluto, are those deep, dark wounds, those deep soul wounds. And in Capricorn, it's just, why bother? And that all this, you're living in denial and just making the wounds worse. And this started back in June, and it's going to go through October. And we do have, ending this week, Saturn sextiling Pluto. We're going to get a little break on this because with the retrograde, they're going to go outside of that. But again, Saturn, maturing, growth in your spirituality, your ability to be present. And when you're learning to be present, how is that helping you heal? I was actually listening to a little blurb on Eckhart Tolle, and he says people try to live in the past or the future, and that's what creates the pain. When you learn to live in the present, that's where the healing happens. And I think that's the lesson here. So when you're learning to focus on the moment, you're able to transcend, maturing in your spirituality, maturing your ability to transcend and see things from a higher perspective and understand things in a higher perspective. That can help do with the inner healing. The shadow here, Saturn, is cynicism, control, can be very controlling, and that leads to the deeper wounds. Did I mention there's a lot of Saturn transits? Saturn is sextiling Uranus. So, and again, I talked about Saturn, so I'm just going to jump right to Uranus. And Uranus is you learning to be an individual. And in Taurus, it's learning to be at peace with your individuality. And Taurus is also the bull, finding strength. If you really want to understand Taurus, I tell people to go to the library and sign out and at least read the book Ferdinand the Bull. I can't remember who it's by, but it's a children's book. But it teaches Taurus lessons. And the insanity of the world that's going on around you, you just want to sit there and watch and chill out and be at peace with who you really are. Perfect lesson of Uranus and Taurus. So that's the ideal. You're able to transcend, you're doing the work, being able to transcend situations, see things from a higher level, and be at peace with being yourself. And because of that, you're able to respond in an authentic manner and just be who you really are. And you're letting go of all the pointless garbage. The shadow, again, is that controlling and falling for the fantasy. And Uranus, the shadow of Uranus is either that eccentric that acts out, or it's that person that sells out. And in Taurus, it's just a lazy response. So this controlling and falling for the bitterness and living in the fantasy just leads to irrational responses. And that'll be ending by the end of the month as well. And this one's going to go for a long time. And you see, I have the exact double X because we do have those retrogrades changing. When those retrogrades happen, there will be, the exact point changes. Not going to move to the laundry list there. But Uranus, being at peace with who you are, how is that helping you grow and mature in your spirituality? This is literally your developing your spirituality, growing and maturing in it, being independent in your spiritual growth and your spiritual practices. The shadow is that person who either acts out or sells out, and they're falling for a fantasy and trying to live in a fantasy. And that sextile becomes a nervous energy. And so it's really creating a crisis. And so it's almost like an identity. In a way, it's almost like an identity crisis and how it affects your spirituality and whatever. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, finally up to transits from last week. Mars in Virgo is in a trine, and a trine is a support of Uranus in Taurus. I am still getting over some sort of head cold. All these weather fronts and stuff messing with my sinuses and headaches like you wouldn't believe. I apologize. Okay, back to I don't have ADD, ADHD. I enjoy it. It's fun for me. It's just going to drive you nuts. Okay, Mars in Virgo. Mars is learning courage and assertiveness. And in Virgo, the aim is self-improvement. So it's having the courage to do the work of self-improvement. And this supports you becoming your authentic self. So you're learning skills that are helping you to become more of who you really are. And maybe you're learning about things that interest you, depending on what house this falls into. But nonetheless, you're learning skills that are of interest to you, of importance to you. You've got the courage to do it. And this helps you to become more authentic and more at peace with who you are. The shadow here is that fear of, the shadow of Virgo is perfectionism. So that fear of not being good enough. And it can come out as anger, it can come out as cowardice, and whether it's internal or external, and falling into, and that shadow of, we talk about the shadow of Uranus, that acting out or selling out. I'm not being who I am. I'm not good enough. So I got to either act out to get people to approve of me and fit in with that crowd, or I got to sell out in order to fit in or do what everybody else is doing. Basically, that's what this is. And the shadow, that trine is a slippery slope downhill, and it just makes a mess fast. And that ends on Monday-ish. And also ending on Monday, Mars in Virgo opposite Neptune retrograde in Pisces. It finished up the Saturn opposition last week. But again, having the courage to become better and reflect, how is that affecting your spirituality as well? Come to think of it, I just noticed this, we do have this wasn't planned, but I'm gonna throw it in here because I think it's kind of cool and important. So you're reflecting on what you're learning and reflecting on your spirituality. So what you're learning and your spirituality, and you being at peace and being able to just be present and in that moment. And so those two are reflecting on you. There's also balancing. So how is what you're learning helping you learn your spirituality, and how is your spirituality helping you learn to become better? And both of those are aspecting Uranus. So as you're working together with those two and you're aspecting Uranus, you're becoming the journey here is you're becoming more of your authentic self. So the shadow here is the tug of war. And we talked about Mars is falling into fear, and fear is created by what the shadow of Neptune is hype. And this is that hype and the lies and the fantasies feeding into those fears that you're never going to be good enough and that you have to become somebody else in order to fit in and be in this world. And it just creates a big mess and a big crisis. But this is falling into fear and falling for the hype and thinking that you're never going to be good enough. And you keep trying harder and you're going nowhere fast. And also, we have, why did I cut that off? Because there's so much cool stuff I could have done with this. Oh, well. Mars, maybe I'll do another video. Side note. Okay. Mars in Virgo, the courage to improve, become better. And this is a trine, forgot to put that in for some reason, to Pluto in Capricorn. So as you're learning to, as you're doing the time and having the courage to do the work of becoming better and improving, how is that helping you to do that deep inner work and that deep inner healing and that inner transformation? So ideally, you're releasing these fears, you're taking the steps of what you need to do to become better, and that helps you do the inner work and inner transformation, that deep inner healing. The shadow here is falling into the fears of not being good enough, and that just feeds the wounds and the cynicism and a control freak nature and just causes more problems. And on Monday, finally, or no, actually, we're not even there yet. This is still on Sunday. Moon enters Aquarius. You have this desire, this emotional feeling, a need to be independent and a need to be free, an emotional sense of emotional freedom. You need just to let go. And we're in the waning portion of the cycle. So waning is a time of releasing. So you're releasing things that are no longer make you feel free. Things are no longer authentic to you, and emotionally they're no longer authentic to you. So you just let them go. The old saying, "Let go and let God." Well, yeah, this is time just to let go of those things so that you can feel more authentic, more at peace, and feel more independent. Get my notes up finally. So yeah, and it's freedom and letting go. The shadow, it's taking the easy way out and having you feel out of control, emotionally out of control, also emotionally fake. Everybody's laughing, having a good time, and I'm feeling tired, so I'm going to pretend I'm having a good time. You're being fake. You're not being who you really are. So there we go. And finally, God, this is the last holdover from last week and the previous weeks. I keep forgetting how long this is. Mercury is station retrograde. So if mentally you're feeling a little stuck, this is why. But Mercury is your ability to learn and communicate And in Cancer, it's learning nurturing, it's learning self-care. So take time to reflect. What have you learned about self-care and how to take care of yourself? Um, have you learned to take time for that? Have you taken breaks? What are you learning from your emotions? Because feelings are messages. Are you paying attention to your emotions? Remember, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So that emotional self does play in here. So what are you learning from your emotions? What are you learning for your feelings? The shadow is being mentally defensive, mentally rigid, that know it all or can't learn it all. And this can actually create more emotional wounds and leave you feeling drained or exhausted. And worrying about everything can create a nervous energy and a desire to hide away. Really, you can feel this transit unsuccessfully navigated can leave you feeling mentally exhausted and alone. Finally, we are here on Monday, the first new transit of the few for the new week. Venus is conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. So Venus, we talked about being relationships and your ability to work and connect with others. It's also your creative ability. It's also your ability for rest, recreation, having fun. And in Jupiter, it's meeting opportunity to do what? Learn and communicate. The lesson of Gemini is communication. Gemini is also all about learning and curiosity. So you learning to be having the opportunity to be curious about others, learning how to communicate with other people. And ability to forge new relationships or learning to relate to people in new and different ways. And it can open the door for you to be able to learn things as well. So it could be the opportunity to learn from others, learn how to communicate from others. The shadow here is being slick or manipulative, basically being lazy. Actually, being slick and manipulative is more work than it seems. Ask any teenager. Um, but it's being slick or manipulative, lazy. It builds the false ego, leads to foolish mistakes, shallow messages, meaningless success, big mistakes, and it puts up a false image and it can come across as being deceptive. This is screwing up relationships and everything else in between in a big way. Not almost saying almost a public way. Well, it depends where Gemini falls in your chart. My chart, it's my first house. If I screw this up, it's out for all the world to see. Big mess. But yeah. Also, we had a couple transits ending, and man, do we get another long one. And again, the exact is XX because we do have retrogrades in here and Pluto going direct. So things are going to wobble around a little bit. I don't think Pluto goes direct during this. I do believe Uranus goes retrograde, though. So you learning to being at peace with your authentic self. How is that helping you do the work of deep inner healing? That's really what this is. Finding the strength, peace in your authentic self helps with that deep inner work, that deep inner transformation, and take time to reflect a little bit on that. And realizing your core self can help you do that work of recovering lost energy, lost ideas, just lost energy in general. Now, the shadow here, if you're not being who you really are, you're being that fake person, and whether it's that acting out or selling out, and you're going for the lazy way out, actually makes it fast to get hurt, makes it easier to get hurt and get hurt faster. And making it in a trine, it's a big way. And so that pointless, that being someone who you're not, damages your identity and can lead to falling into a cynical, dark, nihilistic attitude. And it can also result in power trips that become injurious to yourself and others because it's retrograde more to yourself. And it can lead to feelings of deep loneliness and isolation. And also on Monday, late Monday, the moon enters Pisces. This is a waning cycle, so you're release what no longer inspires you. And by releasing that, you're opening up the opportunity to find what does inspire you. So you're letting go of the past so you can open the doors up to the future. Time of letting go so you can find a fresh vision or maybe purpose for your life at this time. And look inside for insights that can help you to grow. Remember, this is the moon, so this is your emotions. Look for emotional insights. Trust your feelings, What was that? Remember in Star Wars, use the Force, Luke, trust your feelings, or whatever it is. So the shadow here is withdrawing or clinging on to old visions and old beliefs. Can feel empty and meaningless. And if you try to play up the martyr, this will turn others away. And playing up the martyr and trying to be a martyr is just another idle fantasy and just wasting and losing time. And on Tuesday, this is a weird one. And like I said, I'm not sure why the software has it coming up with 2 exact points because I checked Mars retrograde and it's not happening. So this might have something to do with Pluto getting out, or not Pluto, Mercury getting out of retrograde and what have you. So I'm not sure why that has those 2 exact points, but it came up in the software. So I'm going to leave it for now. This is your self-care, learning self-care. How is this helping you? And it's, I'm going to say inspiring you. That's more of a trend. How is this giving you like a second wind? It's more excitement and interest in learning something new. So learning self-care and about your emotional needs can help you find more interest, strength in learning and becoming more of who you really are and learning those skills and having the courage to learn those skills. And self-care can support self-improvement. I think that's a very important lesson, Can't burn a candle at both ends. For the record, this candle would be pretty close too. The shadow here, that Mercury is that mental defensiveness and trying to hide away. And that falls into a maze and hold on a second. Mars in Virgo is that fear of never being good enough. So this is just feeding a mental maze of worry and fear and being overly critical attitude towards yourself and towards life, possibly become rigid and defensive and make everything and anything feel impossible so that you want to hide away. And that's the shadow, that's the failure. Wednesday, take a breath. Remember to exhale. Repeat. Thursday, the moon enters Aries. So you're releasing fears so that you can find courage. Because we're still in that waning cycle. We're approaching the last quarter here. So let go of your fears and find out what calls you out for an adventure. Be willing to take risks. If there's a lesson of Aries, learn to take necessary risks. So emotionally, you're up for it. Find your courage and set out for what calls you. The shadow here is slipping into fear, and fear can be anger or it can be cowardice. It can lead to outbursts, withdrawal, and resentment. And this is you feeling resentment and people around you as well. Okay, so Friday we have this Venus sextiling the South Node in Leo. So we talked about Venus in Gemini you're learning about relationships, creativity, rest, recreation, having fun. And this is creating as like a second wind and an interest. The South Node is in Leo. What you're learning here, what you're letting go of, the South Node in Leo is helping you understand pointless drama and how you hold yourself with pointless drama. So the key lesson here, I think, is you're able to see how, in relationship, how you've had pointless drama in relationships, how it was created, and so that you can navigate around it and be aware of it, navigate around it, and let it go. So you're learning how to communicate better so that you can avoid pointless and unnecessary drama. And ideally, turn it into healthy self-expression and learning how to express yourself more properly and appropriately. Hey, this used to be a trigger in the past. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to play that game. And I'm going to instead say this and say, hey, wow, maybe they have them. Sorry, I'm really thirsty today. So that's the ideal. The shadow is, dominating conversations in relationships, or fake, shallow, superficial, and getting and hold on a second. Let me recollect my thoughts here. We talked about Venus. Venus can be slick, manipulative, and in Gemini, it's using words to try to control or manipulate people, or being lazy and just looking for the shortcut. Instead of drawing the picture using AI to create it, rather than writing the essay and learning how to write a nice note to someone, use AI to write it for you, looking for the easy way out, and it can come across as being shallow and superficial, and that feeds pointless, useless, and unnecessary drama. And it's just like fuel. It's just like throwing gasoline on a fire. Literally trying to be slick, manipulative, pulls up old pointless dramas, relives them, rehashes them. And it's like, what is really, people can throw it in your face. You're trying to, you have an opportunity to change here, and you're not. And it's literally, it just, like I said, it's throwing gasoline on the fire of old dramas. And we have Mercury in Gemini trining the North Node in Pisces. So, this is you learning and communicating your relationships, etc. And the North Node in Pisces here is the North Node in Pisces is learning to see situations from a higher perspective. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. And also understand the North Node is your destiny or your purpose in life. So understand your natal North Node, and then how is that lesson tying into how are you using that lesson to help you see things from a higher perspective, and how is that strengthening your ability to relate and communicate with others, or how is that helping you to find and trying to hear as a support, how is that supporting you in developing your relationships, your creativity, your ability to have fun. Okay, the shadow is falling for hype. He's slick, manipulative, falling for hype, and that's a downward spiral fast into a fantasy land, and relationships gets ruined, and people are trying to play the martyr, and it's nothing, creates a mess fast. So being super official is shallow, can have you missing out on your destiny or making a mess of your destiny. And playing the martyr just gets you nowhere fast. It ruins relationships. And being lazy means losing out on your life's purpose and attempts to escape the resulting emptiness. And again, that is just going to feed into the more pointless drama. So this is actually like Venus is caught between the rock and a hard place, but it's the trine. So you can either build something with put in a little effort and watch it go a long way to building something positive, or make a big mess fast, and in your relationships and your ability to work with others. And also on Friday, we have the moon entering Taurus. You're up for some emotional peace. Take time to go outside and smell the roses. But let go of what no longer brings you peace and fulfillment. Learn how to take time to calm yourself down and reconnect with your inner self, and find out where you really are in your journey. This is taking time just to chill out. And we have Uranus there as the moon crosses Uranus. Learn to do it in your own way. The shadow here is the moon, and can become emotionally stubborn, and you can feel stuck and going nowhere, and possibly difficult to express yourself in a meaningful way. And you can feel stuck in a rut, and the Taurus can be lazy, so you're just like, why bother? Or it can be the moon in Aries is explosive anger. It's just that person yelling on top of their lungs, and that's it. The moon in Taurus is a bull in a china shop. This is dangerous, destructive anger. Be careful. And we do have on Saturday morning the last quarter moon in Taurus. So and this is a square, and a square is a challenge whose purpose is to strengthen you. So you're letting go of what no longer brings you peace so you can find what brings you peace. So how's finding emotional peace? Strengthening your sun in Leo, your ability to express yourself. Stand up, be seen, be appreciated. So how is finding emotional peace strengthening your ability to express yourself? Very important here. It can help finding that inner peace can also help you to find your own presence. And when you know that, then it's more able for you to express yourself. The shadow here is that being emotionally stuck, caught in a rut, and just I'm gonna be honest, exhausted. For some reason, I don't know why, Taurus energy can feel like slow and exhaustive. Probably because Aries is so active, so it's active rest. So feeling emotionally exhausted can, a square here, instead of strengthening you, this is a crushing energy, and you can become noisy, pushy towards others, not able to express yourself, and that leads to pointless, empty drama for all the world to see. Yeah. And on Sunday, we have the North Node entering Aquarius. The first key to understanding this is understanding your natal North Node. What is your soul's intention for this lifetime? And in Aquarius, what is your authentic path? So you're learning to be authentic in moving towards your destiny. And you're following it in your own way. And you're letting go of the need of approval from others, for others, and finding your own perspective on the journey. You ask questions as needed so you can discover things, but be willing to be who you really are and follow your own path. There's that was that poem I saw, two paths in the woods. One was well traveled, and there was the road less traveled. So I took the road less traveled. That's kind of the message here. Choose your own path, choose your own destiny. The shadow here is giving into social pressures and doing what others tell you. That's the selling out or acting out and doing your own thing your own way, but doing it in such an over-the-top way that you alienate yourself and alienate others. And the nodes of the moon are interesting because they move through the signs in retrograde motion. Pisces to Aquarius is kind of backwards, so to speak. So the moon this is moving retrograde, but it's kind of hard to explain. It is retrograde, so a lot of this is internal, but acting out, selling out, giving out, leads to feeling alienated from who you really are and alienated from your path and feeling empty. And there we go. And that's your week in a nutshell. Hopefully you found that helpful. Sinuses. I do want to talk about the International Sidereal Astrology Association. They are having a free conference online via Zoom. All you got to do is register. And this is the first conference. It's not the first annual. Next year's would be the first annual. Don't get me started. So it is the first conference. There will be Athens Shementi will be presenting. Gary O'Toole, who's a Vedic astrology. Dr. Danny Inman. Yes, she is actually a doctor. She's a doula. She helps with women giving birth and all that. Will be sharing as well. And there'll be talks on Western astrology. Gary O'Toole does Vedic astrology. Gail, I can't remember Gail's last name, but she does Babylonian or Sumerian astrology. So we're going to have all the different traditions but using True Sky. So it's going to be an interesting day. There'll be panels, presentations, opportunities for Q&A, and there'll be drawings. So you register, you'll be in the you'll be in for a drawing for a one of the prizes. They've got from what I read in the email that they sent me, over $1,000 in prizes. Cool. So if you like this, hey, follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On Facebook and Instagram, I do what I call daily deep dives, where I take these transits and explore them just a little bit deeper. Um, these corporations are making billions of dollars off your data, and you're not getting much, if anything, from it. Digital Soul Space is excuse me, it's run by Mighty Networks, and they work to protect your privacy. I call it the spiritual safe space of the internet. Four moderators do a great job of keeping trolls out. And I cover astrology. There are a number of astrologers on there. But if you're into crystals, if you're into tarot or oracle decks, there are various spiritual practices. You got questions. I call this the safe spiritual place of the internet. It's a place where you can ask questions and people will share their experiences. It's really cool. I am an ISAA member, and I'm still learning out what my responsibilities are with that. So more details as I understand, but that's cool. Just in the interest of keeping things simple, because my sinuses are giving out, I do readings in packages. I do a quick 6 if you want to see how your chart changes. That reading will help you with it. I do full birth or natal chart readings. I do a karmic or a past life reading. If you believe in one and done, it's a karmic special lesson. But if you believe in past lives, you came here to heal a specific karmic wound from a past life. I can tell you what the wound is, how it was created, and how you heal it. And I also do horoscopes any 1 year, which is any 12 months in calendar months in a row, 3 months in a row, or 1 month. And some people I like to do it new moon to new moon, because that's the natural order. But there are people who want first of the month to last of the month. Pick your month. I do it. And I do have packages that combine these. If you do go to my website, which I didn't pull up, you get a pop-up for a newsletter. I do a once a week newsletter, and then I do bonuses, or periodically I do discounts in there. Yeah. So there's that. Deeper insights on some readings. I do my blog posts on there. There's other information, but do like, follow, share, sign up for that newsletter. It's only once a week, and all I need is an email address. So thank you very much. In the visible sky, your life changes. Thank you very much. Have the best week possible.